So let me talk a little bit about the crisis management. Now, this is some screenshots of a smartphone. So the application is all on the smartphone. So one of the problems areas that I had in the middle of a crisis situation is all of our attendance was done through our laptops and that sort of thing. Well, typically when you have a crisis situation, let's say a fire drill or something like that, you're probably not going to have Wi-Fi on the football field where you evacuate to during a fire drill or wherever you would. That's where we evacuate in our school. So how do we take use, and also found that people are much more comfortable using their smartphones. So how do we take and make use of that so that we can leverage that for safety? So what this does is everybody at our school, our faculty, our staff, our students, and now this upcoming year, even our parents are going to have a account on the Trinity or within Trinity. They have this on their phones. Okay, so what this enables users to initiate a crisis and indicate the severity. Okay, so our teachers and our administration can initiate a crisis. So can our students. Now, however, we do have some things built in there where if certain crisis, if a student initiates, it has to be approved by a administration. But it does allow them to be able to initiate crisis and communicate with us. Okay. It also enables users to recommend a response based on the crisis severity. So let's say, for instance, if I were to, I'll put my mouse over here, initiate a crisis. Okay, the next screen that's going to pop up right here is going to ask me, what crisis are you initiating? Let's say I were to initiate a fire crisis. Okay, I click on that. It's then going to ask me it's the building's on fire. Let's school evacuation. Now, like I said, obviously, if this were a student, we would have built into where their screens, it would be something to where it would have to be approved by an administrator. But what you're looking at now is an example of a screenshot that one of our administrators or one of our teachers would have. Okay. What it then also does is at that point when a crisis is initiated, a message would be automatically sent to the users in our system. All of our students, all of our teachers, all of our faculty, administration. Now, we are eventually going to communicate with parents, but we might not communicate with them right away. That's something that was customized to our school. And if you did choose to want to look into bringing Trinity to your school, it's something that the Trinity staff and team would work with you on of setting up, customizing it to fit your needs. Okay. But an automatic notification, whether you want to send a text, an email, we do both, would be sent to teachers, administrators, and students upon the initiation of a crisis. Right here, I said parents. Like I said, I want to remind that we would, our parents are probably going to get a message that I'm going to talk about here in a little bit when their child is actually checked in as safe. What it also does, we've been able to work with our local 911 first responders that certain crises that are initiated, if it's a actual real-time fire or lockdown that's approved by administration, then it's akin to a 911 call. Okay, it's going to send an automatic message to our 911 that's going to tell them we need help. Okay. It provides customized response instructions based on established school safety plans. So when a crisis is initiated, as you can see right here, it's going to send a message to your users telling them to log into their Trinity application. When they log in, immediately, and as you notice from my screenshots earlier, it was green. Well, we set it up at our school, and you can really customize it to whatever you need. We set it up to where a red background comes up, and it's going to walk your students, your teachers, your faculty through your crisis plan. So whatever you want that particular user to do, and the system's smart. So for instance, if it knows that this student is supposed to be in this particular, for their schedule, and I'm going to talk about that when we get into their class, hey, you're supposed to be in room 101. Well, if a fire is initiated, students in room 101 need to proceed to this exit in this football field. But we have a very generic term right here for our demo. Our demo school is the Triumph School. Is what we would say is okay, teacher, gather all your students and proceed to the football field. Okay, so then they would click that next, and it's going to take them to the next thing. It's going to walk them through your crisis plan, okay? And it's going to be whatever. What I loved about the guy, Steve, when he was making Trinity, it's whatever your crisis procedure is, whatever that would be for your campus, your building, however you want that to work. Okay. What we would then do is it's going to tell us, when we're going to take attendance in our crisis, our students would then, it's going to take attendance for them. We can mark a status for them. They're present and they're good. Either they're missing, we don't know where they are. They're supposed to be here, but we don't know where they are. And one thing, when I talk about attendance here in a little bit, anybody that, when you're taking attendance, this crisis manager is tied in with the attendance piece of the application. So if a student has been marked absent, or if they have checked out, okay, and then a crisis is initiated, they are automatically, their status is going to show up as absent. So we know, hey, I'm not going to have to account for them. They're not here. It's not, we don't have to worry about them in the crisis situation. Okay. So once we check students in, okay, it's going to instantly, we can set up where it sends a message to a parent to update them about their student. And then if we have an evacuation, update them to reunification procedures. So for instance, we have a fire drill. Students report to the football field. John Smith, his crisis teacher. So we do all our homeroom teachers. You go find your homeroom teacher during a crisis. What they would do is once they check that student in as safe, a message would be sent to John Smith's parents saying, hey, not just, hey, we have had a fire, our students are evacuated. It's, hey, we've had a fire, students have evacuated, John Smith has checked in as safe right then and there. So it's a great way of communicating with our parents. It also ensures that faculty and staff have correctly adhered to your emergency procedures. And it also enables us to, the last bullet point here, it enables us to manage our safety plans and share them with emergency first responders, so that we can set it up to where they have Trinity with them. And a lot of times I know that our first responders, people immediately responding to the crisis, may not have their phone out, but their 911 center very well might. So they could say, hey, you're going to this school, all the kids should be here, this is their procedure, so on and so forth. Couple other things, what I really want to touch on some things real quick. What I've found is when it talks about instantly alerting and updating parents about your procedures, I'll tell you a story. A couple of years ago, we had a lockdown drill, okay? And this was before we had the Trinity application. When we had this lockdown drill, immediately I started getting messages on my phone, texts from parents saying, hey, why are you in lockdown? And immediately I was saying, hey, I kept responding to them, we're not in lockdown, it's just a drill. But what was happening is we had students that were communicating with their parents. They were texting, hey, we're in lockdown. Well, their parents were getting bad information. What this does is this fixes the problem, is that we can communicate with parents. We can set it up to, even when we run drills, we can communicate with parents and say, hey, we're running a drill. Your students checked in during a drill. They're safe. Or this is an actual crisis event, but, they've checked in as safe. So it's really helped us from a communication standpoint with our parents. Another thing that I want to draw your attention to in the crisis manager that this has helped is if you look down here, there's a message center, right? And as we go on, if you wanted to hear more about Trinity, if you were to contact them and they were to do a demo for you, one of the things you can see is in the crisis procedure and the whole check-in procedure, this is a real-time communication board that everybody on the system is seeing, all your teachers, all your faculty, if you want your students to see it, sure. So that let's say a student were to check in, but they're safe, they're out of harm's way, but they're not necessarily where they're supposed to be, okay? A student was supposed to be in room 101, but they really went down to the gym because they were having a study hall in room 101 that day, so they went down to visit with a coach or training staff. Well, when the crisis happens, boom, they're not going to then suddenly run back up to 101. Well, they could get checked in by the teacher or coach, and this would show up in this message center saying, hey, student X is not where they're supposed to be, but they're with me, so they are safe. So it just improves our communication and makes it all real time in a crisis situation.